Hello there, welcome to another Silver Selection game review, and this time I'm looking at a game beginning with the letter E, and in fact the only game beginning with the letter E in the whole Silverbird range. It's European five-a-side. No idea what specifically makes it so European as opposed to just general five-a-side, but we'll find out soon enough. So this is a Silverbird game, as you've just seen from the packaging, released in 1988. Very common game, easily found on eBay, and this game cost me £1. So not much expenditure there. Now I've got to warn you up front that there's a bit of a problem with this game, which we'll get to soon enough, but it's made it a little bit more of a complicated review than normal. So let's take a look at the packaging, get the game loaded, and you'll see what I'm talking about soon enough. Let's take a look at the packaging for this game then. Here's your front cover, and quite a nice European five-a-side logo there with the five-a-side bit in a sort of shiny gold colour, and the main graphic on there is pretty reasonable as well. Two guys contesting a football there with some of their teammates in the background. A lot of gold sheen used on this particular cover, I think. Aside from that, it's the usual Silverbird packaging. There's your spine. Pretty straightforward and as expected. And on the back we've got the usual 4 screenshots, which look to be Spectrum based on the general lack of colour on the sprites there. And one thing I didn't notice when I did the review of Beach Buggy Simulator is there is actually a bit of text describing the game. It's right down here in the corner, mostly obscured by the sort of fold in the tape as well. And it says, for this one, it says football fans freak out and kick off with a winner, I think. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so yeah, there is a bit of blur about the game on the back, but it's very, very small amount. Inside the inlay then we've got very similar to the Beach Buggy Simulator. In fact, I think it's identical. Once again, they're asking what you think of the Silverbird packaging, and it's got the 5 forthcoming Silverbird titles, one of which is European five-a-side. Okay. Moving on, we've got the instructions for the game here. Also, you can see that it was by Timothy Kloss, but converted to the Commodore 64 by David Kirby. And it's a bit of a blurb. Enjoy a great game of five-a-side footy in the comfort of your own room, by yourself against a computer or against a friend. It's got the loading instructions. It's got how to play the game. The game is played as normal five-a-side footy from an aerial view. The computer selects the chap who is nearest the ball every few seconds, and a flashing arrow points to the selection, and that is who you control unless you have the ball. Well, surely you're going to control them anyway if it's switched to them, but anyway, let's not worry about that too much right now. We'll see how it goes within the game. It's got the controls there, it's got some settings you can alter as well, and then a bit of information about how to play the game. So you can pass by tapping the kick button, and also you can lob by pressing and holding. Not sure how you shoot, doesn't make it entirely clear there, we'll find out soon enough. And it's also got goalkeeper operation as well, where you can fire and push the direction you want him to dive. He'll get up after a few moments ready to dive again. And that's pretty much it for the instructions, which are, well, not too bad I think, but not super comprehensive either. And here we have the loading screen, one of the most lackluster, pathetic loading screens I've ever seen. European five-a-side is loading, please wait a few minutes. But it has got a scrolling message across the bottom, once again saying the game's loading, like you couldn't tell that from the bars around the side. Please be patient. I feel like this might take a while to load based on this. It does say have fun though. I mean really, if that's all you're going to do for a loading screen, then why bother? So here we have the title screen in 2 very fetching shades of grey, but actually not that badly presented. A nice logo would have been good. And notice here as well that it just says five-a-side footy, not European five-a-side. So obviously the name got a change between being made and being put into production by Firebird. You can see the copyright information there and the design and the coding and stuff like that. And you've got a few options there. So you can use keyboard or joystick, as the instructions said. We'll use joystick. We'll make player 2 computer, since I haven't got another person to play against. And then the third option, this is quite good actually, but before that I should mention the music. which was quite a fetching rendition of the Here We Go song. I don't really know what that's actually called, but the classic Here We Go football chant song, done as a SID tune, quite nice. And then it goes into another well-known footballing tune in a second. Or maybe it doesn't. It does. The famous West Ham tune there, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles. But anyway, let's move on to the options. There are quite a couple of good options here. Oh, well, I'll just press down and press... Obviously that didn't do anything. Let's try again. Yeah, so if you move left and right, you can actually change the colour of the pitch, which is quite a nice feature. I'm not sure why you want to play on a brown muddy pitch when it's at five-a-side. You've got bright green, you've got grey, you've got yellow, you've got white. That would be hard work to play against, especially with a white ball. But I guess you could say that was the snow-covered pitch. Strangely, you don't seem to be able to get back to the original green. Hang on a second. Okay, there we are. And you can also, by pushing up, by pushing fire, you can change the amount of minutes the game is played for. So you can have 3, 5 or 10. So that's quite a good feature as well. We'll go with 5. Okay, so now, as I warned you in the intro, things are going to get a bit messy from this point. I didn't say why at the time, but basically, when you go to start a game, I've obviously done all my settings now. When I go to start the game, nothing happens. Whatever I press, keys, joystick, I've tried plugging the joystick into the other port, and basically it just crashes at this point. It completely freezes, can't get back to the menu, it's just stuck there. So that would be the end of playing the game unless I find another way to do it. So what I'm going to have to do is resort to something I don't like doing, which is using emulation. So we're going to go over to my PC now and actually play it on a Commodore 64 emulator, just so I can give a full review of the game. I have to say it's not looking good so far from the perspective of, well, just annoying me because it won't actually start the game properly, but I'll give it a fair crack of the whip anyway. So I'll play it on the computer on my PC and we'll see what it's like. Okay, so here I am in front of my PC and I've tried a few different solutions for playing this game. My original plan was to play it through an emulator, record the output of the emulator to video and also record a voiceover on an audio recorder. Unfortunately, I had a couple of problems with that. Firstly, the emulator I'm using, when I try and record to video, the video's got sound but no picture. And also when I then try and also record to an audio recorder at the same time, it just completely dies. The frame rate's pathetic on it. So then I also tried a screen capture program where I just played it in the emulator. I could also again record to a microphone, but again the frame rate just died on it. It just can't emulate fast enough. So I've had to resort to the usual sort of old school approach that I do with my normal videos, which is to stick the video camera and point it at the screen of the computer. So there you go. Hopefully it'll come out alright. This is a first for me and hopefully a last, to be honest, because I'm not really a big fan of emulation. I don't mind it for emulating stuff like arcade games, but I do like to play games on the original hardware wherever possible. Unfortunately, as you know, it's not been possible for this game. Also, because I don't play on an emulator, I don't have any device, a joystick or a gamepad to play with, so I'm going to be playing on the keyboard. So I've mapped the keyboard to the joystick controls. I've got all my configuration sorted out. I'm going to play 5 minutes each way. I'm not sure if I'll really need that much, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm ready to go. Okay, so I'm the blue team shooting up the pitch at the moment. The red team is shooting the other way. As you can see, my guy who's currently selected in light grey, and the opponent's selected player, which seems a bit superfluous when it's computer controlled, is the dark grey guy. So we've got a green pitch, we've got the usual sort of markings that you'd get for a football pitch. I'm not sure whether you'd say that's five-a-side or otherwise, but there you go, that's what we've got. It bounces off the walls, as you can see, so that's kind of like a five-a-side indoor pitch, even though it looks like an outdoor pitch. And obviously the aim of the game is to run up the pitch and score a goal. And well, I've conceded already. Probably because I wasn't really paying attention. Let's try and focus a bit now. The first odd thing you'll notice is when you kick off, you don't kick off from the centre spot, you kick off from the edge of the circle, which is a bit odd. So you've only got two options when you're playing, when you're kicking the ball. Firstly, tackling is just done by running into the opposing player. There's no button to press there. And your goalie kind of saves automatically most of the time. So all you can do is pass, and if you pass, that's a pass. So the ball just trickles along like that really slowly. So your other option is to lob the ball, and you do that by holding the fire button down, or in my case the return key, the enter key, for a few seconds. And that's it, that's your controls. So they're pretty simplistic. So in terms of graphics, they're not too bad really. I mean, the animation's looks like 2 frames of animation for the guy, 2 or 3 at most. And the biggest problem in terms of the gameplay is no one runs really, they all just kind of plod along. But overall I think the graphics are acceptable for this sort of era of gaming, for football games. The animation on the ball's a bit nondescript, but it's not too bad. I do like when it goes up in the air, and I do like the sound when you kick the ball up in the air. It makes quite a satisfying bouncing sound. There's not much else in the way of sounds, unfortunately, except when a goal's scored, and there's a tiny little sort of clicking sound when you pass the ball. So presentation wise and graphics and sound wise, it's a bit basic, but hey, I've equalised, hooray. I've equalised by a tap-in because the keeper didn't save it very well. You get this happening a lot where you just stand pushing at each other and the ball kind of moves around but no one goes anywhere. You can try and get some quite interesting rebound shots off the walls as well, which is kind of fun. But overall, it's not exactly the greatest football game. It's a bit odd. The keeper saves it a lot of the time, but he always kind of punts it up in the air. He never catches it, which I think is just a five-a-side kind of thing. But yeah, he just kind of throws it up in the air and it bounces all over the place. Yeah, scoring's quite difficult because you can only score with the pass, with the tap on the fire button. You can't score when you do the lob. So that does make it a bit difficult. Come on, I saved that there and it still scored. That's no good, is it? Yeah, the scoring is very hit and miss to whether it's a deserved goal or not. You can see the problem. You get right in front of the goal, you want to hammer the ball and it just kind of bounces up in the air or kind of trundles along. So it's not very good. I mean, the passing is pathetic. Very difficult to do as well. It's only the slightest press on the fire button and it turns it into a lob. There we go. That was a half decent shot, to be fair, for this game. Yeah, the passing's really slow. The ball travels the same speed as the players, so you can't sort of do any kind of passing and moving. It's mostly a fluke as to whether it gets to one of your players or not. It's actually better just to keep possession of the ball and try and dribble past the opponents or chip the ball over the top of them and then just run and collect it again. That was lucky. See, I don't know what happened there because that to me looked like a certain goal and yet somehow my keeper saved it. So you can do stuff like this, for example. Bounce the ball off the wall and then try and get it back again. Your players don't seem to run in any kind of pattern either or formation. They just kind of all chase the ball for the most part. And I'm nearly at the end of the first half now and already I'm kind of bored. Don't think the computer AI is particularly good. See, I should have scored that then. I just punted it over the top. you'll nearly always have a player that's in defence as well, just sat in front of the keeper, so you can just make him wander along. Oh, so having said that, there wasn't one there. Make him wander along and pick the ball up. So I'm 3-2 down, 10 seconds to go in the first half. There's not really a lot else to say about the game. I'm just going to play it through to completion. Probably just show you some edited highlights of the second half before we go to the review. So now I'm shooting down the screen. Same thing where you just get stuck in the middle pushing against one guy. You can actually sometimes pass the ball and it'll run like half the length of the pitch before anyone intercepts it. See if I can try that now. Just do this trick again first, try and get myself a bit of space. See, you just can't catch up with the ball when it's rolling. So the ball's just trundling along, going out. Another guy. Can do some interesting rebounds off the wall. I just can't get the ball, keep the ball on the ground with the little tap to do a shot. It's really difficult. Oh, come on. Hey, just wander up to the goal line. Maybe that's the approach. Just wander up to the goal line and just literally tap the ball over the line. The player selection in terms of who's closest to the ball is actually not too bad, except sometimes the balls, you just can't get to the ball with the player it selects for you. But overall I don't think that's actually too bad an element of the game. Let's try that approach. Oh, he's got the ball off me. Give me the ball. There we go. It's really not very good. Then you can just stand there with players nowhere near you and just score into the far corner. At least I'm finally winning. Quite want to score like a good shot by bouncing it off the wall. Let's try that. No, that's not going to work. I mean, that was straight at the keeper and somehow managed to score. So yeah, the difficult shots that the keeper shouldn't be able to save, he saves them, and then the easy shots that should be bread and butter for the keeper, he seems to miss completely. So the AI on the keepers is not good at all. Oh, almost. Determined to get one of these rebound shots in. Oh, that did not look like a goal. That looked like it was going wide. I think I intercepted a goal-bound shot there, some actual defending. No. We're running out of time now, into the last minute. It's a good five-a-side score, to be fair, 5-4. Perhaps not quite high scoring enough for a five-a-side game, generally speaking, but let's just see if we can Oh, I just nicked that off me. Oh, bounced off the wall again. Just pass that to myself, shall I? Across the entire width of the pitch. Just seconds remaining, just run down the clock now. I wasn't able to score one of those rebound shots, unfortunately. Oh, that's probably going in. Okay, so there you go, I won 5-4. There's not much more to say about the game, obviously. It's a pretty basic football game, very limited in terms of what you can do on the field, although the options before the game are actually quite decent, strangely enough, in terms of your half length and being able to play against a computer or another human player, and also the changing the pitch colour, which is quite an unusual thing for a game of this era, I would say. Also, I read that it's one of the first Commodore 64 football games where it had an overhead view rather than a side-on view, so that was perhaps sort of a harbinger of things to come with games like Microprose Soccer and then later stuff like Kickoff and Sensible Soccer, but I doubt they were very heavily influenced by this game. So overall, it's been a bit of a frustrating review, not just because of the game, but because of the situation with the game not loading on the original cassette and what have you. So in terms of my review for the game, packaging, I'm going to give it 5 out of 10. I think the packaging was not too bad for the Silverbird packaging. It was okay. Presentation I think is pretty good. I'm going to go 6 out of 10 for presentation. I think the options I was talking about are pretty good for a game of this standard. Although the title screen is a bit boring and grey and the loading screen was pathetic, the music on the title screen is pretty decent, and those game options do give it a bit of an edge on presentation. Graphics, the in-game graphics are pretty average for this sort of era of football game. Nothing spectacular, but not horrendous either. So 5 out of 10 for the graphics. Sound, again, as I've just mentioned, the music on the title screen is pretty good, but the in-game sounds are pretty basic. Although you do get a nice round of applause from a cheer from the crowd when you score, so that's not too bad. So I'm going to go with 4 out of 10 for the sound. And playability, again, I'm going to go with 4 out of 10. There's not much in the way of playability really about the game. It might be better with 2 players, but as a 1 player versus the computer, it's a bit limited. It's kind of luck of the draw whether you save a goal or score a goal. Doesn't really seem like there's a lot of skill involved. So that gives it an overall score of 5.1, which I'm a little bit surprised at that it's come out that high, but there you go, that's what my formula has come out with. Slightly higher than Beach Buggy Simulator, which I think is perhaps a bit unfair on that game, but there you have it. As for whether it's worth $1.99, I'm going to say no to that, simply because I think there was probably already better games out in 1988 at budget price for football games, possibly some of the earlier games that would come out a few years earlier and been re-released. So I don't think I'd have been happy paying $1.99 for it, and especially not for the copy I've got where it won't even load on my computer. So that's it for the review. Let me know what you thought of this particular one. Not one of the finest hours, I don't think. And I'll be back soon with another review which hopefully will load on my regular original hardware and I won't have to deal with any of this emulation nonsense. See you next time.